Welcome back to Super Important Reviews. My name's Steve, and it's finally here! My Bandai Tamashii Nation SH Monsterarts Godzilla 2014. And if you guys haven't noticed, I've changed the lighting a little bit for this review. And if you guys could chime down in the comments after you guys watch the video, if you guys think it's better than how I had it previously set, really would appreciate it. But I've been foaming at the mouth to do this review, especially after seeing Diego Doom's and Rich's review of this figure. And if you guys haven't checked it out after watching this video, you probably should go look at it just to get a few more opinions. Of some links in the description below. But this is a figure I've been really excited to do the review for, more so than actually getting the figure in. Which is weird because usually I'm more excited about getting the figure in and the review is just kind of like a secondary side note. But I've been really looking forward to comparing this one to the 12-inch long version. So that's how I'm going to be setting this up, where I'll go over the figure briefly for you guys. And then I'll compare it to the 12-inch long Godzilla from NECA. Just to give you guys a rough estimate of which figure you're going to want to be getting between the two. And I'll give you my overall 2 cents in which Godzilla 2014 figure I think is overall the best right now. But that comes later. So for the packaging, I really love the way they got the Godzilla displayed on the front of this. It's a really awesome pose for the figure from inside the packaging, where it has this really awesome menacing look. It's part of the 60th anniversary, 2014. Really love how they do the slash packaging for this. Especially you can see on the top. Looks really awesome and gives you a nice clear view of the figure on the inside. On the side, another rory pose, more of the slashes. This side, even more slashes with Godzilla 2014. On the back, has him in a lot of really awesome dynamic poses and just shows you overall what you can expect to do with the figure here. On the bottom, don't really know what that says. On the bottom of the official packaging, just a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo, and I have it upside down. And that's pretty much it for the box. Let's get him opened up out of his cardboard prison. And here he is out of his prison, and first we're going to go over his accessory that he doesn't have, which I really would have loved to have seen some kind of effects piece for his breath effect that he does in the film. Because the only other ones that I really have right now for the SH Monsterarts line is the High Seas Godzilla to really go with this guy. And his breath effect isn't going to work very well with this. And it just would have been really nice to have seen some other kind of accessory to come with him. But they are actually releasing effects pieces at the end of the month. So I'm really actually looking forward to getting those in, and I'll be doing a review of those as well. And seeing how it actually works with this figure. But we'll get into the figure, which looks really good. Overall, really love the way the details came out on the scales here. Really love the hard edges on here. And it's really nice. It's something that we haven't seen with any of the other Godzilla 2014s that have been released. And the head sculpt on here, actually on mine, because I noticed some reviewers have been complaining a lot that they've been getting derpy eyes, with one eye would be fairly lazy while the other one would be looking fairly straight. And mine actually are fairly good. So I guess I'm one of the really lucky ones that got a fairly normal looking sculpt, at least on the eye portion. My teeth on mine are still a little bit fudged up. They're not perfect. It's mainly up here is where it gets really bad. But it kind of gives them a little bit more of a gnarly look, so I'll let it pass. It's not too bad. One thing that's kind of weird, though, is he's got a little bit of red paint on the front of his nose and a little bit on his chin. Kind of looks like he's been eating like strawberry jam or something, so that's a little bit of an odd look for him. But it helps with the gnarliness, like maybe he's been munching on some Mudos or something. Especially with the tongue sculpt on the inside, looks really nice as well. Really love the blood red paint on the inside. Like the tongue looks really sweet. It's got a nice gloss to it. And one thing that's actually really weird, and bring in my little screwdriver for a second, is that the tongue actually has articulation. So you can actually pose it any way you want it. You're going up and down, and you can move left and right. So that's actually a little bit neat. I don't know why it's necessary, but it's neat nonetheless. Gives you some extra posability options if you want. And then moving to the dorsal fins, look really gnarly. Also, one thing to point out is these are actually really pointy and sharp, so just be a little bit careful when having this around kids. But really love the details that are on here. And it helps that these are actually really hard plastic, and something that I really actually like personally. Because with the NECA one, it is the soft kind of pliable plastic, and they just didn't really look quite as good as they do on this guy. So that's something that's actually a big improvement for me anyways. And then for the body here, really love the details on it. It's kind of neat too because the way his body is, the coloring for it is a charcoal color, while his tummy region is actually more of like a camouflage, kind of like lime green little wash over the top of it. And you can see coming down here too, it's on his inner thighs, and then coming down his tail. And especially like right here, you can see the coloring. And it gives him a little bit of variety, and I really love the attention to detail on that. His arms look really good, very dragon-like. Then for his legs, not too bad. The only thing that's a little bit odd, was especially with the posability, is he has a lot of gapping here on the legs. You can fix it by adjusting the plastic here, but it's just it takes a little bit of play to get everything situated to look a little normal. So that's just one thing to point out. It's kind of bad here on the legs. Right here up on the tail, it does it as well. And then up here, where the dorsal fin section is, there's a decent amount of gapping here as well. And you can see here, there's a little bit of spine to try to help cover that up, but kind of, to me, it kind of looks like old man pants. It's just a weird look for me, but it helps a lot with the articulation. And then I'll go over that in a second. But the tail here looks really nice as well. Really love the way it just kind of has these nice segmented sections, and then it just ends up with a more whip-like tail at the end. Looks really good. Alright, for his articulation, his head can look up, down, side to side. Really nice range of motion there. His body, really nice abdominal crunch. Can also turn side to side as well. Really nice range of motion there. His arms can move up a little bit. It takes a little bit of play to get to move around, but can rotate all around. Nice range of motion. His elbow has a double joint to it. Really good play there. Also has a rotation here at both joints at the elbow. His hand's on a ball joint. Can rotate around. A little bit of play to it. It's really good. Alright, for his legs, they can move out about that far. You can see there's a little bit of gapping there. You just got to play with it to get it exactly how you want it. Move in about that far. His leg can go all the way around. Has a nice bend at the knee. Also, a little bit of rotation here because these are all little ball joints. And for his feet, really nice bend and pivot to them. Really good range of motion on there. And then for his tail, just pretty much your standard SH Monsterarts fare. Really awesome range of motion. Love the way it bends and moves up and down. Because each of these little sections are their own little ball joints. And it even comes up to here is where the joint stops for the tail. So you can get the nice whip-like effect. One thing to point out though is on mine, his tail pops off really easy. It's really easy to get back on, but just something just to give you a little guy's heads up. So to me, this figure actually looks really good. But let's get them compared next to the NECA 12-inch long version and see how they stack up. So now that I got the NECA 12-inch long version, I'm going to be going over this in 3 sections, which is going to be movie accurateness, design, and overall playability. So first we're going to go over the movie accurateness, which I'm going to have to give it to the NECA version of the legendary Godzilla. Because this guy just looks so good next to the actual film version of Godzilla. Looks very nice in the way he looks in the film. While the SH Monsterarts version gives the overall same appeal, but they changed a little bit of things on this version to make them more different and unique to the SH Monsterarts line. And first you can see here, the head on him looks really good. Really nice and screen accurate. It's a little bit shorter on the snout. My only major complaint with the head for this guy was that it needed a little bit more detail to it, and the teeth could have used a little bit more paint. But that being said, this guy still had the same teeth problem. And overall, his head is definitely the larger between the two, which is something I would see more akin to the actual Toho Godzillas. As you can see, especially looking at him side by side, his head's definitely the larger of the two. Which is something to actually point out between the two figures, because what's kind of funny to me is that this is the American version of the toy, while the Japanese, more inspired version is the larger of the two. So, yeah, take that how you want. And then another thing too is that the way the feet are designed, his is movie accurate, kind of more what I like to call elephantish looking, while his is definitely a lot larger. His toes actually stick out a little bit farther, and is more akin to something I would see with like a dude in suit kind of look. So again, something more akin to what Toho would be doing. And then overall stature, again, NECA one just overall has the right vibe going on for me. Well, this guy is definitely more upright initially. You can pose him to get him into the same stance, but it just looks a little bit more odd to me. But you still can get it into it, but initially when I got out of the package, it just kind of looked like how every other Godzilla looks, and just kind of upright in the way some dude be standing inside of it. So it's really nice that for the SH Monsterarts version that it is different between this, because with all the other Godzilla 2014 stuff I've reviewed, he's definitely the most original looking of them, because most of them fairly look the same, have the same stature, same looks. It's just overall how much detail they got going on between them. And it's really nice that he has a nice differentiation between all the other ones. So I gotta give it to the NECA one for overall screen accurateness. So next, I'm going to go over the overall design, which I'm actually going to give it to the SH Monsterarts version. Even though surprisingly, this guy's screen accurate, but this thing just looks so good with the overall amount of details on him. So I really love the hard edges. Some of the changes I actually really don't mind, like the way the feet are elongated looks actually pretty good, especially with the way that he's been designed just to be a larger kaiju. Especially with the larger head and the overall girth, it makes sense to increase the way the size of the feet are. And just the way the spines are, I really love the hard edges. And he just looks really menacing. While this one, the details are still really good, but the gloss on the scales here kind of give him more of an amphibian look. And it was something, it didn't really bother me initially, and still doesn't really bother me now. But compared next to the other ones, I like the way that this one turned out a little better. Just with the more flat paint job, just looks really nice on this guy. And if it was on this figure, I imagine this figure would look really nice as well. So I gotta give it to the SH Monsterarts version, which actually really helps with the overall play factor too, which is what I'll go into next. Because with all his segmented joints, he gets a lot of range of motion and posability, so he works really good with all the other figures. And also with if you're planning on hoping that somebody's going to be releasing Mutos, it's more likely that they're going to be releasing it for the SH Monsterarts line than the NECA version. Because NECA pretty much stated they're only going to be pretty much sticking with Godzilla figures from here on out, so the likelihood of Mutos coming out is just kind of non-existent at this point. So it gives a lot more of a nod to the SH Monsterarts version, because if they're going to be releasing the SH versions, you're going to want the figure to go with it. But that being said, with him looking more screen accurate, I really would love to see what he would look like next to those Mutos, and if they would be changing them to match more of this version or trying to be screen accurate. But I still think he would look really good with those, and this one actually still works really well with a lot of the other SH Monsterarts and overall posability factor, because they're both going to be the same height. They both can look up just as far. The arms can move out just as far. And overall, the way the legs are, like, he can't spread his legs out that far, but I don't know if it's really necessary all that much. Even though it works really well with him, because he's just a larger looking kaiju, so he needs a little bit more of a stance. And then, even with the tails, moving that guy is about as far as it can go over that way. Moving that guy is about as far as it can go that way. Having him tip over because he's drunk. It's still overall, like, they get about the same posability. So, overall play factor, even though the SH Monsterarts definitely has a lot more of the ball joints on him, that really help to give him a lot of range of motion, and also give him a clean look, he still has a lot of posability too, and a lot of the same movements. It just doesn't look quite as clean on him, but it still works fairly well for display purposes. So in terms of play value, I actually am going to they are pretty much on par with me at this point. And they both work still very well in your collection. Even though it would appear that he would be the better choice, they still work out fairly well together. So if I had to choose between the two, I would say if you don't already own the NECA version and you have a little bit of money to spend, The SH Monsterarts version is definitely the way I would go. I really love the way the sculpt turned out, and even though it's not quite movie accurate, you can still get it into the overall pose that it had in the film. And I really love the posability factor of the figure, and it looks really good with all the other SH Monsterarts figure, and I'll show some comparisons in a few. That being said, if you already own the NECA figure or have a low budget, I definitely think this is probably the way to go then, because this guy being at about $18 and this guy was more closer to $68, he's definitely the more pocket-friendly of the two. And overall, he still looks really good with all the other SH Monsters figure. And if you guys haven't seen it, I already done a review of this guy and showing some comparisons with him. Still poses really well. And to me, the SH Monster version just doesn't really replace it in my collection. But I still really enjoy that the SH Monsterarts version is a different variant of the character. And for someone like me, I really love having different things like that in my collection. So that would be the only real reason if you have this guy to invest in the SH Monsterarts version. Now, if I actually had to pick one legendary Godzilla to have in my collection, I would personally go with the NECA 24-inch long version of the character, with it being a very large Godzilla with it overall standing at about 12 inches tall. It's a very massive figure and overall has a lot of really nice details. The overall articulation is very nice and reminiscent of the 12-inch long version, while also having the segmented tail more akin to the SH Monsterarts line. So the posability factor on the character is amazing. And it also comes with the sound effects, which wasn't really the highlight of the figure, but it's nice that it comes with it. And for the price, I know right now I see these figures standing at about the same price, but initially when I picked him up, he was the cheaper of the figures. And which is just crazy to me that this guy was, when I picked him up, less than 60 bucks, while he is $68. So for me, in terms of value, it just seems right to go with the 24-inch tall version. And if you aren't planning on getting the Mutos or any other accessories to really go with the 2014 version, this is definitely the way to go. And for some quick comparison, here he is compared to all the other SH Monsterarts Godzillas in my collection with the 2000 Millennium, the 64, and the High Seas version. And here he is with the monsters that have been spoiled for his next movies with the SH Monsterarts Mothra, Fire Rodan, and King Ghidorah. And here he is compared next to the SH Monsterarts Biollante, which this needs to be a movie so bad. And here he is compared next to some of the American Bandai releases with the Atomic Breath Godzilla, the Smash Attack, and the Tail Strike. And here he is compared next to NECA's Battle Damage Gypsy Danger. So overall with the legendary Godzilla, I still think he turned out really good. I love the take that they did with him and making him a little bit more their own and not quite screen accurate to the film. It gives them a nice differentiation with all the other Godzilla 2014 figures out there in the market. And with them releasing the alternate version of the Godzilla 2000 Millennium, and me really enjoying having that thing in my collection because it's just a nice differentiation between all the other 2000 Millennium figures that I have. And this figure is no less different than that for the legendary Godzilla. So I personally think he's been worth it, but if you're looking for a more screen accurate Godzilla, there are better versions of this character out there, with the 24-inch long version of the NECA Godzilla 2014 being what I would call the definitive version of the character. But I still think that the SH Monsterarts version is definitely a great piece to add to anyone's collection. So which one do you guys think is better, the SH or the NECA? Do you guys like the changes that they did to the character, or do you think they should have just left it alone? Please let us know in the comments. We'll have closer pictures on Facebook. You want to click the link description below. Please don't be afraid to share this video around, and if you like this and want to see more stuff like this, please give us a like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. And for his tail, pretty much your standard SH Monsterarts fare with seeing it pop off. Hey guys, welcome to Super Important Reviews. My name's Steve, and today we're going over the Bandai Tamashii Nation SH Monsterarts Godzilla 2014 SpitFire version. This is the second 2014 figure that we have gotten out of the SH Monsterarts release, because we sadly haven't gotten a Muto yet. But I'm actually excited that they actually gave us a repaint of this figure, because this one actually comes with awesome effects pieces like his breath effect and a severed Muto head. Like, who doesn't want a severed Muto head? And even does some added stuff with the spines back here. And to me, he just seemed like a better version of the 2014 figure that they released. But won't really know officially till we get this guy out of his prison. So without further ado, For the packaging, really love the front of this packaging here where you get the more gray background with some blue here where you have like these slash marks on the side of the packaging. Looks really cool, very reminiscent of his spines when they're doing the atomic blast. Then you also get him doing the atomic blast on the front of this packaging. Really love the picture so far for the front. And also pretty much tells you everything you need to know about this toy on the front of the packaging. Even has the cool little Godzilla 2014 little emblem right here at the top. On this side of the packaging, just get to see a little bit more of the figure on the side here. And pretty much most of the same as what we got with the front. For the top, not a whole lot much going on. Side, nice profile shot of Godzilla here. More slashes. For the back of the packaging, you just get him in a lot of very dynamic pose. That pose actually looks super goofy, but then again, this one looks freaking sweet, so I'll forgive you for that one. But pretty much shows you what he comes with in the packaging. Some stuff I can't understand, but it does show a guy messing around with a Godzilla down there, so that's pretty cool. And some legal mumbo jumbo. So let's get this guy opened up out of his cardboard prison. Alright, so now that we have the legendary Goji open up out of his cardboard prison, first we're going to go over a few of his accessories, starting with his atomic breath piece, which overall looks freaking awesome. Like, look at the details. Look at them. Because overall, it actually has a lot of varying tones here for the color scheme, where on the top here, you get this very nice, more of a metallic blue, like a very light blue. But on the bottom, it's actually partially see-through plastic here, and you also get a little bit more of a darker teal color coming in on the bottom here. So it helps to kind of replicate that overall weird blue fiery effect that they had from the film. You can see here, it kind of blooms out at the end here, which, I'm not sure how much I really like that little end piece. Like, I think I would just liked if it would maybe tapered off. But then again, if they do actually release some Mutos, it would look kind of nice, kind of pressed up against them. So, actually, on second thought, I actually like this a lot now. But it's just kind of weird just looking at a stand by himself. But the colors do look really nice. Really like the flame textures of this overall. And also has a little spot here for the stand. Which, grabbing the stand real quick, which also looks freaking awesome. You get the Godzilla 2014 logo right here. Looks really nicely painted here on the stand here, and some copyright information on the bottom. Also get the articulated stand here, which we get with a lot of the SH Monsterarts figure, or just SH figure art stuff in general. Nothing too much here going on the bottom. Another thing to point out too is you can actually pop out these little pegs right here if you want to get added stands on here as well. Not gonna really do that because don't really need to, but it is an option if you guys wanted it to. And then how you just get it on the stand here is, again, peg holes on the bottom here. Just insert it into the stand. And then, once you get it onto the stand, grabbing our SH Monsterarts Godzilla here, you just pretty much rest it inside of his mouth. And now you have him blowing his atomic blast, which actually looks really cool. I also really like how different this looks compared to a lot of the other Godzilla figures that I have, where their atomic breath pieces are pretty solid plastic bits and just look more like a beam ball. This literally looks like it's just shooting fire out his mouth like a dragon, which is awesome. It also really helps to... It really just helps to show off the dorsal spines here as well, because you get that nice blue coming up the tail here and then pretty much ejecting out of his mouth right here. And I just really love the color scheme and overall just the presentation that this gives us. And then next we have our severed Muto head, which looks freaking gross. Well, overall, the details on this thing are amazing. Like, the inside of that mouth there looks really awesome, very bloody looking, because this is essentially pretty much what happened after we got our famous kiss of death scene, and this is before he does his, like, little mic drop thing on the ground. But the head sculpt does look amazing. Like, this makes me very, very hopeful that they are going to be giving us a Muto in the future, and I really, really, really need a Muto. So, get on it, Tamashi. But this is actually a nice little teaser, at least for us as of right now, because there's not an official anything going on. But still, the details are really nice. Really like the gray that they got going on here with some very glossy finish over top of it. Gives it this really nice shine. One thing I want to point out, though, is that I kind of wish she had like the little red here for her eyes, though. Like, I kind of believe that the reason why they don't include this on this little piece right here is mainly because she's dead, so the eyes wouldn't be open or illuminating as they were in the film. So I kind of understand it, but it just seems a little bit out of place here, not actually being on this accessory piece. But other than that, it looks freaking boss. And then essentially how you just get this onto our Godzilla is just like most any other figure. You just grab here for the base of the ball joint here at the hand here. And all you do is just make sure to come out straight when you're pulling on it. Pretty easy to do though, except on this guy it's A little bit tight, but comes off pretty easily just with a little bit of force. Then you just take the piece, pop it right on, replacing it, and now you got him holding on to his severed Muto head. Which overall, I really love the inclusion of this accessory for this figure because it's a very iconic piece from the film. But what's kind of weird is I wish this was with the original release, because him with the illuminating dorsal spines here for his atomic blast, he wasn't really doing this when he's holding the head here. Like, initially from that scene, he actually had his like head up and he was doing the roar, and then he kind of just drops the head shortly after it. And I really wish this would have came with the other figure, and I might actually display this with the original 2014 release just because it seems a little bit more appropriate, but I still love that they gave us this piece. And just to briefly show you the Muto head with the original release for the 2014 Godzilla. Overall, actually, again, really like this to go with this figure, because then I can have him kind of displaying on a shelf doing his like upward roar and not losing his tail. But this is definitely probably going to be the way I'm going to be displaying on a shelf, because I just think it just looks better with this version of the Godzilla personally. Like, it just helps to replicate that scene from the film a little bit better than with the Atomic Blast version. But I still love that this figure came with it though, just so it kind of gives our old version a purpose in our collection. And then bringing our Godzilla for a closer look, overall the head sculpt is actually really nice on this guy. Overall, love the molded details on him, looks fantastic. Overall, pretty much, if you guys haven't seen my original 2014 review, it's pretty much the same mold for the most part, except for just one big difference here on the back. We'll go over that in just a second. But one issue I have with this figure, sadly, is turning him slowly. You guys will notice that my Godzilla does have the derpy eyes, which is a little bit sad. But still, the eyes do look really good, painted very nicely, even though it's just kind of shifted. But the sculpt on the face is awesome. Like, even on the inside of the mouth here, where my tongue's a little crooked. Hi guys. Now he's got like puppy dog tongue. I will fix this eventually. You're Yumi. Alright, I think that's about as good as it's getting for this review as of right now. But the tongue is a little bit shifted on the inside of the mouth, which is kind of sad. But still, actually has a lot of very nice details here. We get the nice blood right here for the inside of the tongue. Actually has a decent amount of details here on the roof of the mouth as well. And just underneath the head too. Like, just the mold of sculpting here is fantastic. Even coming along the back here, we get the more reptilian, crocodilian scales, because I know that was a big inspiration for the way his plates were looking, to kind of give it that more dragon look to it. And the same with his body here for the underbelly, looks very nice as well, where it has that nice kind of armored plated look. Not quite as hard scaly as the body, but still looks awesome. And then for his arms, look very reptilian as well, where you get the nice, again, crocodilian plating going over his arms. Hands look very nice as well, very dragon-esque. And then moving down to his legs, if you guys didn't know, he's actually a little bit more stylized than what we got with, say, the NECA Godzilla 2014 figure, which is more accurate towards the film, while this one's actually more of a Bandai's rendition of the actual character. Like, the main weird thing you can tell is here with the feet, is they actually stick out a little bit, where they're actually more like toes, and not very reminiscent of what I used to like to call the elephant feet, which overall I actually still really like the look here. Kind of wish, again, they would have maybe went a little bit more closer to the movie, just because I would have loved a stupid articulated version of that character. But it does actually work really well, because then you don't have this guy competing with the NECA figure, because the NECA figure is a little more movie accurate, while this guy is actually just a better sculpted figure. But it's more stylized than what we got with that figure, so it's kind of like a little bit of give and take here. And then the main reason why we are picking up this figure is for his atomic blast plating, which overall look awesome. Really love this metallic blue that they got going on here, where it's coming off the spines here, and then it also bleeds onto the back here, which is supposed to help replicate the spines actually glowing, which I really actually like. Initially when I got them out of the packaging, it seemed like it was a wee bit excessive, because especially looking at it from the back, that is a lot of blue. But then again, you imagine like when they were doing the film and the scenes, it's very dark, so when the spines are actually lighting up, it's actually giving off a crap ton of light. So that actually works to help replicate that very well. And what's also cool, grabbing one of my little lights here, is that the spines are actually translucent, which is awesome. I kind of want to see about getting a little light inside this guy and seeing how it actually works. But I sadly broke my little leg that I was using with some of the other figures, so until I get that replaced, I'm gonna just have to run with this. But I love the added effect for that, and if you can actually get a light up in there, that would be freaking awesome. Especially if you could just turn it on. And kind of wish it would go up the tail, but it still works, and it's very suitable for this figure. It just helps to really just translate that overall effect that they're going with for the Atomic Blast. And it even comes down here very nicely for the tail here, in which it stops right about here at the last dorsal spine right here. But I really love the way the tail looks too here, where it has this really nice kind of segmented plated section, and then you got like the softer underbelly here on the tail. Looks really nice. Like the sculpt on this figure is just amazing. And I just really love the sculpt on this figure overall. Still, like with the original 2014, was definitely one of my more favorite Godzilla 2014 figures. And I'm pretty sure this figure is going to be up there as well in my collection. And then moving on to the articulation. His head can look up about yay far, which if you shift it a little bit, you can get it to pop in right under the little plastic piece here, so you get his head to move up a little bit more, but that's about as far up as you're getting. His head can look down about that far using all the joints in his neck. His head can look about that far to the left, and then shifting everything a little bit, can look about that far to the right. Alright, accidentally popping on the head here, you can see here it's actually kind of translucent on the inside of it. That is sweet. Also at the mouth, his mouth can move down about that far. Can almost close, but on mine it closes about that far. And then you also can have a little bit of articulation here at the tongue. Grab my atomic breath piece, and you guys see me messing around with it. But there is a decent amount of play with that. The shoulders can go up about that far, down about that far. Have a little bit of a wiggle to it, but not a whole lot. Arm can go up about that far without popping the joint out. Can go back about that far. Can also has a really nice bend here at the elbow. Can rotate all the way around at the elbow, and can also rotate all the way around. It also has a little bit of play here at the peg joint. And then his waist can bend down about that far, bend up about that far, which isn't really a whole heck of a lot, but he does actually have a decent rotation here at the waist. Also has a nice pivot here at the lower part of the waist. For his legs, can move out about that far, which is actually pretty crazy huge for these SH Monsters figures. Like, oh man. Can go in about that far. So I can go forward. Actually, I think it can rotate all the way around. Let's try it. Yeah. Once you shift the tail, can rotate all the way around. Has a really nice bend here at the knee, which is really good. Also has a nice little bend here too, right underneath the calf here. Feet can also move back about that far, forward about that far. Has a really nice pivot, and can rotate about that far side to side. And then for his tail has a ton of ball joints right here, which stops right about here, which is actually pretty crazy for one of these figures. I really love the point here at the end of the tail too. But it does have a really nice play where it can go side to side pretty well. It can go up about that far and down about that far. So for this quick comparison, here we have the SH Monsterarts SpitFire Godzilla next to the Movie Monsters Muto and the Bandai's Atomic Blast Godzilla. Roar. And for a quick discussion, here we have him with the NECA 12-inch long and 24-inch long Godzilla 2014. Which originally, with the original release, I would say that these two guys were definitely the better pickup, just because this guy is definitely more movie accurate and a lot cheaper than that release was, because this guy runs around $20 when the original one ran you somewhere around $70. And this guy also ran you around $70, which this guy's freaking huge, awesome, gorgeous, love the details and articulation, has sounds, and this guy was what I would consider to be the best articulated Godzilla figure. But as of right now, it's pretty much a toss-up between these two, for me anyways, because I love the inclusion of the accessories that this guy has. It just really makes him to be a nice cohesive Godzilla figure. But I still love the big guy just because he's freaking huge and looks great. Like, how can you not love him? But with this guy now, he's a little bit obsolete in my collection as of right now for the smaller NECA 2014. And for some other SH Monsterarts figure, here we have him with the Batra Larva and the Gamera 96 from Gamera 2. Which I actually, with hearing some information pretty recently that they're actually trying to get King Kong over to Warner Brothers in order to do like a crossover with the 2014 Godzilla, which I think is an awesome idea. But I would actually really love to see a crossover with Gamera personally, just because then we could finally have these two guys fight and it'd be awesome. And with Batra here, I just think it would look awesome on the big screen as well. Like, don't get me wrong, Mothra is going to look super pretty and be awesome on the big screen with all the high definition, especially in IMAX. But I also think Batra will just look freaking amazing on there as well. and it just looks a lot more menacing overall. And here's some Pacific Rim figures with the Hong Kong Brawl Gypsy Danger and Crimson Typhoon, which is also talks of this guy actually maybe doing a crossover with the Pacific Rim guys as well, which personally, I'm not sure how I feel about that one, because I would love to see Godzilla interact with these guys. But for that kind of universe, I just don't think Godzilla really fits in there as of right now. Like, I'm sure they could work it down. It'd be awesome. But I kind of just want to keep Pacific Rim as their own little thing right now. So overall, the SpitFire Godzilla, I think he's an awesome addition to the SH Monsterarts line. I think he's a nice improvement over the 2014 Godzilla that we got originally, while also with his accessories not making him fully obsolete if you already own him, but you could actually have him displayed with the Muto head while you could have this one do his Atomic Blast. But if you don't own the original 2014 figure, then I definitely would say the SpitFire is the way to go over that one, just because he's definitely more bang for your buck. So if you guys missed out on the original 2014 Godzilla figure, then you guys need to be adding the SpitFire Legendary Goji to your collection today. So what do you guys think? Have you guys picked up the SpitFire Godzilla? What's your favorite 2014 Godzilla figure? Is Muto's just more your thing? Please let us know in the comments, or a closer picture of this guy on Facebook. You want to click the link in the description below. Help us defeat those kaijus by hitting that like button. Subscribe to become a ranger today, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.